Gurl TauX is here, come with us, let's talk about it. Dating after 50, what about 60s, 70s, or 80s? I mean, you're not dead yet. Is it easy, hard, or possible? What about after losing the love of your life? I mean, you're not dead yet. You're not dead yet. Throw on your best loves out there. Go ahead, take the test. Swipe right on life, don't hesitate. It's easy, hard, impossible, babe. They say you're done when the candles fade, but girl, you're shining like a sweet parade. 50 or 60, yeah, life's still hot. 70s, 80s, still got your shot. You're not dead yet. Throw on your best loves out there. Go ahead, take the test. Swipe right on life, don't hesitate. It's easy, hard, impossible, babe. Lost your darling, your love flew away. But listen close, there's still another day. Every chapter's got a twist to write. Find the glow in your starry night. You're not dead yet. Throw on your best loves out there. Go ahead, take the test. Swipe right on life, don't hesitate. It's easy, hard, impossible, babe. Dating's a jungle, and you're the queen, rocking your crown at every scene. Who cares if the years have taken flight? You're still the sparkle in the moonlit light. Sip your wine, then dance on the floor. Love's got a key to open new doors. Age is a number, it's never too late. Life is a party, don't wait to celebrate.
Get this camera going. All right. So we're here. Hey, how is everybody doing? It is Monday. It has definitely been a Monday for me anyway. That was my little song for dating after 50. You ain't dead yet. Now that's the words of my mother. My mom actually is the one who says, "Well, I ain't dead yet." So I thought it apropos for the fact that, that is absolutely true. This is part of our series, Life After 50, because we aren't dead yet, as they say. And I'm not sure if my husband is listening, but hopefully he is listening. Because I sent there we go. Now it's here. I sent myself something and it wasn't here. So I was hoping maybe it came through. It finally did. So anyway, this is not, I haven't tried it yet. Oh, are you trying to talk to me?
Good.
I assume so. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet.
Hi, girl. Oh, hi there, buddy.
Sorry about that. Can you? I'm good. I'm good, babe. I'm good. He's trying to ask me questions, and I don't know what he's saying. So, if I have a problem, I will, as usual, get him to help me out. So, dating after 50, love at any age. That's our topic for today. This is in our series of our over 50, life after 50, thrive, not just survive. And why are we doing this topic? I'm not single, I'm not dating. I'm married and happily married. So, dating after 50, though, is a journey of rediscovery, resilience, and joy, but it comes with unique challenges, whether you're navigating divorce, widowhood, or simply seeking companionship later in life. Um, the reason I want to do this is one, my mom is single. She's in her 80s. And she's the one who says, I ain't dead yet. And this ties into our theme of empowerment for women, mental health, and showing that love is possible at any age. With a focus on women from their 50s all the way through their 80s, we'll highlight real stories, stats, and practical tips to inspire your audience to embrace dating with confidence. So, that is the importance of dating after 50. And even though I may not be dating, I have friends that are. I have friends that are contemplate dating, and both of us, Steve and myself, have parents who have lost their significant others and are not dead yet. So, how do you handle that as a child of someone who wants to date? And there are caveats to that. There are parts of that that we have to navigate as the children of the parents and as the person who is in their later stages in life. How do they handle it? So, I am bringing my mom on today so that we can. And for some reason, I've got sound, and I'm not supposed to have sound over here. So let me turn that sound off. There we go. No sound. But I will have my mom on here as well. So let's talk a little bit about statistics. About 30% of adults over 50 are single, with many actively dating. 1 in 6 have used a dating app. That's done Pew Research as of 2022. Divorce rates amongst those over 50 are rising, often called gray divorce, doubling since 1990. Bowling Green State University study 2023. Older adults are pickier. A 2011 match study found those over 50 are less likely to compromise on attraction or love compared to younger daters. That's pretty interesting. Love isn't just for the young. 70% of seniors in relationships are sexually active, with STD rates rising among the over 65, showing intimacy doesn't fade. Psychology Today 2015. And women over 50 are less likely to remarry than men. 77% of women stay single 10 years post-divorce compared to 62% of men. Health and Retirement Study in 2023. So I am going to introduce my mom, and this is Victoria. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Fine, I'm doing great.
And she is the ripe young age of 84. And again, like I said, she is the caveat to I'm not dead yet. She's the main reason why I used that in the song, and I used that also in the title, because we think about it differently depending on who it is. The person thinks about it differently. So you have to think about there is humor in it. There are some statistics as well, and there's some personal insight that I'm going to have and that my mom's going to have. But there are dating apps galore, and you can swipe left, swipe right, you can comment, you can heart, you can send them a kissy face, you can send them all sorts of things to get someone to know that you're interested in them, as well as them to respond back. And I'm not sure exactly what the stats are on how much people respond back and forth, but there's a lot of people going through apps. Now, I remember back in the day, um, and I'm not sure. Do you remember back in the day when they had the put your ad in the paper?
Yes.
And was it like it was kind of frowned upon. It was like looked at like only the losers used the ads in the paper, right?
Pretty much. Yes.
Yeah. So if you really were dating, you went to places and you found somebody to date.
Well, it was not really the end result that you're after. You're more after for companionship, someone that you could relate to and have experiences on the level that you were. And a lot of people that have been um, active in a social situation was not me. I was a pretty much of a stand back and watch type of person.
Oh, you were the silent observer in the
Mhm.
back corner.
Yeah, my mother was the social butterfly, not me.
Yeah. But at the same time, you were a good-looking woman. So I'm gonna give a little bit of information about you as well. So my mom was a model in the '60s. Was it the late '50s and '60s?
Well,
Or mostly the early '60s?
early 60s into the 70s.
And then, she was also a pilot. She was actually a pilot that was one of the first women, on the West Coast to get her instructor pilot's license as well as her commercial pilot's license. And I even have the articles to prove it. I've got the receipts, man. So for you being a tall, blonde, bombshell um pilot, dating was probably easier for you. Is that accurate?
Well, I think it was harder because the men, first of all, I flew with all men. And when their wives and stuff would come out to the base, I would have to dumb down uh, and not be a attractive female. I had to be kind of like a mannish female, or rough, rough, rough. And then they would be, oh, okay, and they'd go home and leave us alone. But if I had came out in my flight suit and I had a green flight suit with uh, quite curvy curves and
I have that flight suit, and interesting story behind that flight suit is it was actually a jumpsuit that was in one of the modeling things that she had done in New York. And when she came home, she said that she just loved it because there weren't really flight suits for women back then. And because there really wasn't a lot of women flying. And she told my dad that she really loved this jumpsuit. And he said, "Why didn't you get it?" And she said, "Because it was expensive." And he said, "You go ahead and get it." And so she did. So now she has that. So anyway, welcome to Gurl TauX, where we get real, we get raw, and sometimes we get a little rebellious. And we're continuing our Life After 50 series. Today, it's all about dating after 50, finding love from your 50s all the way into your 80s. I've been doing a lot of things over the years. I've dated, obviously. I worked in the medical field. I was in law enforcement. I was in the Army, and I was a journalist. So I even done a few stories on this type of thing. But how do you know how to aim at the target that you're going for. But dating, that's a whole different battlefield. We all have an idea in our mind of who we think might be ideal for us, and it's not always accurate, or it's not always attainable. Um, so whether you're divorced or you're widowed or just ready to mingle, you're diving into the highs, lows, and everything in between. We do have some Dear Margarets coming up and a special guest who found love after 70. That's my mom. And tips for you to help you find yours. Let's get started. So let's start with the fact that you know I personally find it so adorable and so cute when I see an elderly couple walking and they're holding hands, and it's so very sweet. Um, and I think a lot of people feel that same way. And it would be amazing to realize that as you look at them, you might think, wow, they've been together for so long and they're so happy. But the reality is, many of those are brand new loves, brand new relationships.
Right.
Um, so, um, the whole point of it is that dating after 50 is not just for young folks. We think that it's all about young for dating, but there are plenty like Seniors Meet Seniors is an app that's used, and that's for senior citizens is what it's intended for. So they're on the apps as well, swiping left and swiping right and hoping they can find somebody new. I've been thinking about this a lot as I navigate my own 50s, but on the range, I don't have to worry about it. For somebody else, they have to aim and see if they can find that person that meets their dating criteria. The stats are wild, though. There are 30% of folks over 50 are single. And like I said earlier, 1 in 6 are on dating apps. Looking for love, at least a good coffee date, but it's not always easy. Divorce rates for that age group are up, doubled since 1990. They call it gray divorce. And women, well, we're pickier, apparently. A match study says that we're less likely to settle for someone we're not crazy about. And I love that for us. I have to say, I think that there's a part of that we've already either been through it, whether it's been through divorce or becoming widowed. There are a lot of women that I think have settled at some point in their life. And when you get to an older state in your life, you realize, you know what? I'm not settling ever again. Do you think that might be part of the reason why you see that as a statistic?
Well, I think that that is true, but I think more true is that you are looking for someone that are at your level, that intelligence and humor are, for me, a high bar to meet, because I like to have someone who's genuine, that has really lived their life and enjoyed their life, and they're not bitter. And you find an awful lot of people that are finding fault with everybody and everything, and they're just very unhappy. You want to make sure that you stay away from that, because they
Well,
will bring you down.
you
Yeah.
see that a lot with you talk about the grumpy old people, where they're snarly because they're old and they feel entitled or something like that. So I can imagine some of that would uh dribble off into the dating world too. If they can't find good in anything, how are they going to find good in dating either? So they might want the dating, but then they're going to pick apart that person. So women are probably, and that's why it says that women are going to be more picky on the aspect of maybe 1 or 2 dates with that person, and then they're going to be like, nah, you're too grumpy, you're too picky, or you're too some people are too high on themselves, and it's going to be a turnoff as well, I think. I'm not sure, but I would think it is. But there is a difference a match study says we're less likely to settle for someone we're not crazy about. And I've seen friends in their 60s find passion, others in their 80s rediscover companionship. Me, I'm still married and happy, so I don't need to worry about that. But I look at it from the aspect of what I see out there for my friends, or for family, so I know that age doesn't stop the heart. You don't get to a certain age and you just don't care about love anymore, or you don't care about companionship. um and, of course, today we're talking about 80 and all the way from the 50s into the 80s. And we have a few stories that'll make you laugh, maybe cry. I don't know. Um, um, Maybe even download Bumble or Seniors Meet Seniors, something like that. But first, let's hear from Dear Margaret. Let's do a couple Dear Margarets. And I didn't set these ones in because I forgot to do it, so I'm gonna read directly from this screen instead. So let's dig into our Dear Margaret real quick, and then we will continue with the rest of the show.
Dear Margaret's here, let's dive right in. Bring your questions, let's begin. Life's a real maze. We'll help you with your coping. Dealing with life in this rat race. Honest thoughts, no sugarcoating. Tell us your tales, your woes, your gripes. No fluff, no bows, just real life types. Sign it clever, let your pen take flight. We'll serve the truth, sharp and bright. Send us a query, take a lead. No hidden rules, no secrets to keep. Anonymous wisdom that cuts so deep. Dear Margaret's advice you'll want to reap. But in the end, let's admit we all really don't care, Margaret.
All righty then. So our first Dear Margaret is, and don't forget, if you have questions for Dear Margaret, please email them to dearmarg, DEARMARG at gurltaux.com. That's a Gurl TauX, GURLTAUX, because we're going to talk about it on Gurl TauX. So I have a couple that were sent to me. Is dating worth it after divorce? Oh my goodness. Dear Margaret, I'm 52, just divorced after 25 years, and I'm terrified to date again. Is it even worth it at my age? Scared in Sacramento.
Oh, wow.
Okay, interesting. So I hear you. Divorce after 25 years has got to punch. For sure. And dating can feel like a battlefield, like, especially if you've been married for 25 years, you've been out of the game for a long time, you don't know what you might be facing, you don't know how the dating world game is played anymore, and you probably are also a little scared of it being too much of a game and not some real stuff, and you might not even be looking for anything more than dating. So remember that 30% of folks over 50 are single, and many are dating. 1 in 6 are on apps finding love. It's worth it if you want it. I would say start slow, try a coffee date or go on an app like Our Time. And I think there's even 50-year-olds that are on Senior Meet Seniors. You've got wisdom and confidence now, so use that to your advantage. And you're not scared, you're just warming up. That's what I would have to say. What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say find someone that have the same interests that you have, are at the same level of life that you are, so they can understand where you're coming from, and you have some neat stories you guys can enjoy and have a banter of being happy and looking forward to your senior life.
Well, and I don't think you have to take it so serious either. Like,
No.
that's a big part of it is I don't think you need to take it so serious that, it has to be you're not looking necessarily for a new husband. You're looking to have companionship and enjoy the company of somebody else. So, rather than looking at it in a scared aspect, look at it as a new adventure.
Right, and you have to take into consideration his family life. Does he have children? Do they have grandchildren? Are they really involved in their family, or are they kind of stand apart and kind of look at it and are really not involved? And that tells you a lot about their character. If they're a very selfish person, you certainly don't want to feel feelings for someone who does not really care for you, but what can you do for them?
Yeah, so I would take that dating very slow, take your time, especially you're only 52, so take your time. In that aspect, there's no rush to it. Well, here's our next Dear Margaret. How do I navigate online dating? Dear Margaret, I'm 65 and trying online dating for the first time. It's overwhelming, ghosting. I don't even know what that is, weird messages, all of it. How do I make it work? Digital in Dallas. Well, I have to say, ghosting is a hard thing. Are you familiar with what ghosting means, Mom?
No.
Ghosting means like when you message somebody and you're talking with them on a regular basis, whether it's through text message, phone calls, or emails. You're talking to them on a regular basis. And then suddenly you start sending them messages, however they are, text messages, phone calls, and email, and they just stop responding to you, but they don't tell you why. That's called ghosting.
Ah, okay.
So, that's a very common thing, and I think that how ghosting started is because there is so much prominency on email and text messaging that it's easier to break up with somebody by just not simply responding ever again and not having that like you don't need that closure because you're the one ghosting. You know why you don't like that person, but you also don't have enough balls or enough cojones or enough um um moral fortitude or whatever the word is. You don't have it in you to give them closure.
Will depend on what their agenda is.
Well, I mean, for the person ghosting, their agenda
Yeah,
is to just never talk to you again, but not have to man up, so to speak, and say why. They
right.
they don't have to tell you,
No.
you know, and basically you're doing it almost on purpose so that the other person doesn't have any closure. Like you kind of want to know, what did I do? Why are you ghosting me now? What happened? What did I say? What did I do?
Well,
And it may not have been you at all.
yeah, I feel sorry for that person because you'll take the blame for everything. It's always my fault. Well, no, it's not. It's circumstances are beyond your control. And you need to understand that hey, let it go.
Well, and I think you also have to take in mind that the character of a person who is willing to ghost someone instead of just telling them says a lot for their character. It says a lot. So you don't want that back anyway, in my opinion. I wouldn't want it back if that person's just going to ghost you anyway. Then they didn't care about you in the first place. So even if you got them to talk back with you again, it's probably not worth it either. And I think the weird messages probably go in line to there's a lot of men, because of this online scene and because of it not being in person, that they have a lot more brazen things where they ask completely inappropriate things from people. And you think about it, like, send me a nude pic, And most people go like, seriously, why would you even ask that? But you think about it from this male's perspective. He may seek out on these apps 20, 30, 40 different women and send the same message to all 40 of them. If one of them sends them a picture of their boobs, he got what he wanted out of it. It doesn't matter if 39 women said you're a creep and go away. He got one set of boobs that he could look at. So for some people, the weird messages are just part of the game, and you just kind of have to let those roll off your back and not. I wouldn't respond to any of those. If there's something either creepy, inappropriate, or just strange or just weird, there's probably more to it, and I would just leave all that part out of it. And that's the other good thing about having it where you are working through an app, is that you don't have to commit to anyone initially. You can have those conversations, and till those initial short conversations become a bigger conversation, you don't have anything to lose.
No.
You can just talk to them.
Well, and also you need to decide how much are you going to invest on something that might be very important to you. So you would throw out certain questions and ideas and get into their head to find out where they're coming from. Because if they're not on the same page, forget it.
Yeah, don't waste your time.
Right.
And it's a nice way, because you are and I mean, that is where ghosting can be friendly too. Like, if somebody's weird and creepy, I'm not going to send him a message saying, you're weird and creepy, and then he asks why. I'm not going to answer you again. I already told you you're weird and creepy. I'm not going to continue the conversation. So ghosting on that level can be your friend as well.
Right.
um well, I just have to say, how does it all work? It's a work in progress. You have to just try it and figure it out as you go, and you'll learn, and you'll see. People can be really picky. I think there are a lot of people that are on those apps, though, that think they're a 10 when they're a 4. They think they're more than they are, and their pickiness can be an aspect of that. So anyway, the digital world can be very daunting, and I guess it's kind of like, welcome to the wild, wild west of dating. I've been there before, and it is a lot. Online dating is huge for our age group. 1 in 6 over 50 are doing it. But yeah, ghosting stinks, and weird messages. We've all had our share. I think the important thing, in my opinion, is to be clear in your profile, be honest, say what you want, what you like, what you're looking for in a kind way. And I mean, be honest and clear. Use the proper apps like Silver Singles or Seniors Meet Seniors, or whatever's appropriate for your age group. And looking for a kind companion. If you want just a companion and just somebody to hang out with, you need to be clear about that. Don't waste your time on flakes. Move to a face-to-face meetup as quickly as you can without being uncomfortable. Aim for the precision that you want, the precision, and get to the meeting the person as soon as possible, so you can see them face to face, because you can learn more from somebody face to face when talking to them. You can see whether they're honest and truthful better through one-on-one, but have those dates in a public place. I would even suggest, at this day and age, do not have somebody come pick you up at your house. Meet them at a Starbucks or a local coffee place or a local little wine bar or something like that. Drive yourself, meet them there yourself, because in today's day and age, I don't think it's smart to let somebody know where you live, because there are, unfortunately, some very bad people in the world, and there have been the online, dating app stalker murderer, and he killed people through dating them. And that was actually how he was found as well. So I would say keeping that caution sense. Um, and I know it seems really weird, but I'm a little bit more on the be careful side. I would even cover my license plate when I got there so that when they came out, if it didn't work out well, they wouldn't have my license plate, because I don't know, there are a lot of hackers out there, and there are a lot of people that can get information that you don't think they can get, and then they could get your address. Just my suggestion, be careful and be thoughtful, but also don't be suspicious right off the bat either. You need to give it a little time first. Next one is, can I find love after losing my husband? Dear Margaret, I'm 72. I lost my husband of 50 years last year. I'm lonely, but I feel guilty even thinking about dating. Is love possible again? Grieving in Greensboro. Wow. Well, that is hard. That is very hard for sure. My heart goes out to you. After 50 years, that's a very long time. That's a lifetime. And that loss is going to be heavy, and it's going to be heavy for some time. Now, you said that you lost them last year, and I see this as a time that you're going to go through. I've seen friends go through this. I wouldn't say necessarily friends, but my mom lost her fiance and a few years ago, and my mother-in-law lost her husband over that period of time, and my husband's dad. And she actually talked to us and said she wanted to date again, but not really date. Like, she's not looking, she doesn't ever want to get married again. She just wants companionship, and she wants to have fun with other people. So one of the things that she did was she moved to Florida from Texas, and she did not move to the villages, but she moved nearby the villages. And she is in quite a few different clubs and groups. She does pickleball, and she's in a book club. And so she goes and does a lot of social engagements at the place where she lives, and she's met quite a few people. And for her, that has really been amazing for her, because it gives her the social part of it and the companionship with other people without having to be in a committed relationship with one person, and actually being dating, and it going, because quite a few people, once they start that dating, officially dating thing, they want it to move to another level at some point. So but you deserve to have joy, and having that guilt is real. To some people, I've even read about this where, some people feel like they're cheating if they're going to date somebody after they've lost their spouse. So the stats show that 70% of seniors in relationships are still active and loving. Age doesn't stop love. That's the most important thing. It's okay to feel ready. Your husband would want you to be happy. Start with companionship, join a local group, like I said before, or try a site like Our Time. You're not replacing him, you're adding a new chapter. I'd say that's the most important thing, is that you can think about, is that you are not replacing that person. You're actually just adding a new chapter and adding someone to your world. And you're allowed to do that. And I think your spouse would want you to be happy and want you to have that relationship. Now, for you, Mom, you started redating after 30-year marriage and divorce. And I think you were 70, right?
72.
72. And that's when you met Dick. So we're going to get into that a little bit more, but did you have were you what's the word for? Were you really scared or nervous about starting dating again?
Well, I did not consider it dating. I thought it was more like a social avenue of finding someone that you could relate to and enjoy the same thing. So I was not looking for romance. I was
Okay.
looking for someone to
Companionship.
be companionship, and I was looking for someone who was intelligent, who had a very creative life, and had some really good experiences, and was ready to enjoy someone else.
Now, what would you tell this person who said that they are looking at dating again after losing their husband of 50 years? What would you tell this person?
I would tell her to be very careful of what you say. Do not tell anybody what you are, how much you have, what type of lifestyle you have, because there are people out there that want to come in and take it away from you. So
Yeah.
you need to be low key, and if someone comes back low key the same way, and so you can tell they're protecting themselves and you're protecting yourself, that might be a good match.
Right, because you do have to be careful of the people that are out to take advantage of the seniors out there, especially those over 65, 70 years old. There are it's a very common thing with the catfishing. That is one of the most important things with the whole catfishing thing. Are you familiar with the catfishing thing?
Sort of.
It's where somebody pretends to be something else to get something out of you.
Right.
So that's the quickest way I can explain it. So I think the biggest reason why catfishing is successful for so many people is that people seem to want the love, they want companionship so badly that they're willing to believe unbelievable things as to why they can't meet. I'm in this country, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. I can't travel right now. Oh, I bought my plane ticket, but then my friend got sick. So, I would say I would buy into one or two excuses for not being able to come and meet person to person. But after like two, I'd be like, you're full of crap.
Well, I would limit the area 50 miles around where you live. I would not want to meet somebody from Texas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's just a
It's
dream.
too far
Yeah.
and it's too unrealistic to have a longer term relationship happening out of that. So I would agree. So those are some things to keep into mind. That's for sure. Now this one here is our last one. Am I too old to date? This one you should just answer from the get-go, and then I'll give my 2 cents worth in. Dear Margaret, I'm 81 and widowed. I'd love to date again, but I feel like I'm too old and I'm not tech savvy for apps. Is there hope for me? Hopeful in Houston.
Well, let's say hope you have a beautiful redheaded daughter that'll help you.
Well, but as she asked, am I too old?
No, you're never too old until you're under the grave.
What's your line?
I'm not dead yet.
That's right. That's right. I'd have to say hopeful. You're never too old, and my mother can prove that. Love does not have an expiration date. I think that's the most important thing that we have to realize. And just because someone else has reached their expiration date, it doesn't mean that you're automatically expired as well.
No, you don't have a date stamped on the bottom of your foot. I'm at the same level I've always been, and I still have one question: what is love?
What is love? Well, do you still have the question, or you have the answer to that
No, I
question?
don't have the answer. I've never found it because in each relationship, it's different.
Right, right. And since love can be different in each relationship, what is it actually? I think love is when somebody completes you so much that you stop thinking as much about yourself as you do about them.
Right.
and they
yeah.
equally do the same. I
You
think
you want
that's when you have real love.
yeah, you want to put the other person first, and if they're not putting you first, then it's a one-way situation and
Right.
you really need to get out of.
Right, exactly. But like we said, love doesn't have an expiration date. And just because, and I'm using the word expired because of the expiration date, but just because they've expired, you don't have to expire with them,
No.
you know? And I've heard stories from folks in their 80s finding joy and finding love again. A friend's mom had met her partner on a cruise. I was not that long ago on a cruise, and there was definitely quite a few people in their 70s and 80s that um, have found love again. There are a lot of events that you can go to at your age group. I think going to maybe even moving to a new community where there's a lot of interaction, because apps aren't the only way. You can get involved in your church, you can get involved in community events, you can move to a senior um living area, and it doesn't mean a senior center, a senior home. It means a senior friendly area like my mother-in-law did, and you can get involved in the organizations that are in that. You don't have to be techie, and you don't have to be on the apps. I know my mother-in-law is not techie, and she doesn't use those apps. You know, she just got involved in her community, and she moved specifically to a senior um, community where they actually have events, they have concerts, they have different organizations, they have different things that you can do. So that's something that you could look into. I think you can hit your target at any age. I don't think there's an age limit. Um, and there's a way for you to move beyond thinking of everything has to do with an app. Dating after 50 is a journey, um, but the destination can be beautiful. From your 50s to your 80s, love is out there. If you're ready, aim for it. That's what I have to say. Let's dive a little deeper, and we're going to talk a little bit to my guest, my mom, Victoria, who found love at 72. And maybe she has some tips to help you find yours as well. So let's get into that part of it. And we're going to talk about some of the different parts. I am going to reiterate some of these statistics, of course, because that is important for us to know. And remember, 30% are over the age of 50 are single. So 1 in 6 use apps. That means 1 in 6. So that means there's 5 out there that are not using an app. So they're getting involved in their communities, their churches, events that are going on. Women are pickier and less likely to remarry. So 77% stay single post-divorce versus 62% of men. Health and Retirement Study 2023. So if you are looking to get remarried again, know that there are more men willing to get married than there are women. So if you're a woman dating, you have a better chance of somebody wanting to get remarried if that happens to be your goal. But the challenges are there is a smaller dating pool, tech is a little bit overwhelming, and there might be some emotional baggage with divorce and loss. So those are things that you need to probably keep in mind. I tried dating after getting out of the military and after going through my divorce and some of the things, and I'll tell you what, it was daunting, and the right connection makes it worth it. I'll tell you a little bit. I mean, this wasn't in my 50s, it was in my 30s when I met my husband, but I will tell you, it was still daunting, and I was on an app, and I did, and ironically, my son, your grandson, is the one who put me on Match.com. And when I found out, it was because I was getting emails from people, and I was like, "What in the heck is this?" And he said, "Mom, you need a life." So
I need a life. Tell me how.
yeah, exactly. And so I had a few dates, and oh my God, I could write the book on bad dates. I mean, from the guy who I showed up, he had me meet him. Ironically, he had me meet him at his house. I would have thought, considering what I found out after the fact, I would have thought he would have just had me meet at the place we were going to go eat at. But he had me meet at his house, and I pulled up, and then he asked me to park in the neighbor's driveway. And I mean, in the neighbor's driveway. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know what the deal is with that, but obviously the neighbor didn't have a problem with it either. So I parked in the neighbor's driveway, and then I got in his truck, and he had a really nice truck. I would have dated his truck. But on the way to eat, I did ask, like, what's with parking in your neighbor's? He's like, oh, because if my ex-wife came over to the house and there was a strange truck in the driveway, she would have slit your tires. So I'm thinking, red flag, red flag. And on our way to the date, I hear this laughing and noise in the back seat, and I look in the back, and there's like a 3-year-old child. And I'm like, oh, who's that? And he's like, that's my son. Okay. I did post on my thing, I didn't want to date anybody with children. And here's this 3-year-old. I don't want to raise somebody else's 3-year-old. And now his ex-wife would slice my tires. So that was one bad date. And then another guy who came to a date, and he was a pilot. So I thought, well, our flying stuff would have something in common. And it turns out he did have a pilot's license, but all he flew was his boss's plane that did the smoke messages in the sky, a Skyrider. So he wasn't a super skilled pilot.
You gotta have to be able to turn on the smoker.
I guess that's it. But he wasn't a commercial pilot or anything like that, and he wasn't a combat pilot or anything like that. And then I found out he lived in his trailer in his boss's backyard, and he brought his kids to the date. And then he said, well, go swing the kids, and I want to see how you interact with the kids. And I was like, excuse me, are you interviewing for a nanny? Because I'm not out for a nanny job. And I literally, right in front of him, picked up the phone, and I called my girlfriend. And I said, can you please come pick me up? We were at Bowers Mansion. If you remember where Bowers Mansion was.
It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I said, I'm at Bowers Mansion in the middle of Washoe. And I said, can you come pick me up? I'll be the one walking on the highway. And she's like, what's going on? And after the phone call, he goes, did you seriously I said, did I stutter? I said, I'm not in for a nanny job. So those were in my late 30s. So think about somebody in their 50s going through those crazy dates that I had one date that showed up at my house. We had agreed for him to just come to my house to pick me up to date. And if you remember, this is when I had my motorcycle, and I have a garage full of tools and stuff, because I was, I guess, a very manly girl. And he drove up, had a cool truck. I would have dated his truck as well. But he got out of the truck, and he walked up, and I was working on my motorcycle. It was up on the motorcycle lift, and I was working on my bike. And he said, whose bike is that? And I said, mine. And he said, who's all these tools? Are you married? And I said, no, I'm not married. He's like, so when your husband left, you kept all his tools? And I'm like, dude, these are my tools. And he turned around, put his hands up, and said, wait, you're way too man for me. And he walked away, got in his truck, and drove off. So those are stories from somebody in their late 30s. Imagine that in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into your 80s. Can you imagine the dauntingness of making a connection that works? I was done with the whole dating thing when I met my husband. And I had decided, forget this. This is not worth anything. And I could write the book on bad dates, and I just was at the point where I said, "Forget it. I don't even need this at all." And I got a message from Steve, and I wasn't even going to read it. I was on there to delete my whole account, and I saw the message from him, and I didn't read it. I put it right in the delete pile. And his picture on his profile was him with his children.
Bad news.
No. Well, no, I thought that was good news because he was honest that he had kids. And then the curiosity got the better of me, and I went and read the email from him, or the message from him. And I emailed him back, and he was honest. He was a Marine. He was recently injured. He was in recovery. He was going through a divorce. He was living with his parents, and he had 4 kids. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of honesty in one message. Don't you know to wait and hold some of that stuff back? Anyway, because of that honesty and the connection with the military and fire, I think that was mentioned in there that he was a firefighter. Because of all that, the curiosity let me go and send a message, and we emailed back and forth, and then we talked on the phone. My husband considers that our first date was our phone call because it lasted like 8 hours or something. So, needless to say, because of that, because of that, I gave him a chance, and it started with, and for all of you out there thinking of dating, I love the way our first date started. And it was, let's just start with coffee sometime in the late morning. And if we're enjoying each other's company, it can continue into lunch and possibly longer. Ours ended up being coffee at Starbucks, and then we were enjoying each other's company, so we went to lunch at Olive Garden. And then after lunch, he said, "Well, are you enjoying yourself? Do you have anywhere to go?" And I said, "No, I'm fine." So we ended up going to a movie. And then after the movie, we had something else to eat, something small. And our date ended at like 3 a.m. and it started at like 9 in the morning. And we both, while we were driving after the movie, after eating again, we're driving around, and it's late, and it was storming and lightning. And I said, "Oh, I love lightning." And he said, "Oh, me too." And so he said he made the suggestion to go out to Boca and watch the lightning on the water, because it's really cool when the lightning, you can see it and it kind of reflects off the water. So we went out to Boca Reservoir and watched the lightning storm. And so that's a great way of starting a date, is start it small and allow your time to be open, so that if you want the date to continue, you can, and you don't have a commitment afterwards. So Donna here says that this is a great topic. Hello, lovely ladies, from Donna. And then, if you have a great dating app that you can share, you can call in and share it anytime during the show if you'd like to, Donna. Donna says that she has a great dating app story that she can share sometime. So feel free to call in, Donna, and you can share that on the show, because we should have it on.
Well, this is a new subject for me because I don't even have a profile.
Well, it's not a new subject for you. It's a subject that you've done before.
Well, yeah, but it hasn't been anything on the top of my head. I've been extremely happy doing what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think a big part of your part of it here too is that when you were 72, you had found yourself to be newly single, and you were I got to turn this off real quick cuz my glasses don't want to let the road connect. There it is. It's connected. So Donna, if you call, I will be able to answer you. just so you know you can call. But okay, there's my did I turn these on? Oh, I turned them on. I meant to turn them off. Okay, I only want my other ones on. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little backstory. So, my mom, who's 84, and she was divorced after just about 30 years, started dating again at that age, and she found um, a new love, and that was pretty exciting for you. So she started dating after 70, and she found the love of her life. And how did that part go for you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at that age, you don't have a lot of time. So
True.
you put away what you would in your 30s and say, okay, here I am. I'm not going to be around much longer. Don't fool around with nonsense. And so
You get right to the nitty-gritty.
yeah, and so he invited me to come over. I was about 50 miles from where he lived, and said, "Come on over." And
Well, that wasn't your first date. Your first date, you guys met at an Olive Garden.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I thought you were meaning when you went to his house.
No, no,
Okay.
no. And I went.
Sorry
over,
for interrupting. Go ahead.
I went over there, and unknowing to me, I parked right next to his car.
Oh, how cute.
And I walked in there and heard this fellow standing there with this nice leather jacket on. And I walked over and put my hands on his sleeve, and I says, "Are you Dick?"
In that sultry voice. Because just because you're 72, the 30-year-old blonde bombshell was still inside
That
there.
was kismet, I tell you. So we just got along and enjoyed each other, had great stories. He loved to talk, which I really loved because he had a very creative life, and he'd done a lot of things, been in mining, been in railroads, been around the world, had a lot of perspective of what's going on. And so he was very knowledgeable about the world around us, where I'm kind of the type that goes, okay, whatever.
Well, and being that you were 72 and you had just gone through a divorce, what gave you the courage to even put yourself out there again?
Bored.
Bored? So it wasn't so much courage as but I mean, I think part of that leads into, I mean, you didn't become a widow, you were divorced. And part of the getting divorced was you were already being ignored and you were already lonely in some aspects. So you needed to, you were bored already. So,
Well, he was not complimentary to who I was.
right.
And as hard as I tried to be who he wanted, it just wasn't there. So you kind of lose yourself a while.
Right.
So it took a while to find out who I really was and what I really
Find
wanted for
yourself.
me.
Right.
And
So,
I'm from the world of aviation, and I find somebody who likes aviation, then we have a bond that we can talk about.
right. What would you say was your biggest challenge that you faced starting to date again in your 70s? And how did you overcome it?
Recognizing that I wasn't 30,
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
because at that age, at 72, who in the world wants to look at a nude 72-year-old woman? Nobody, not even me.
And that's not necessarily true, you know? So, okay, so now you told us how you guys met. You met at a dinner date at Olive Garden. Um, how did you know now, did you date anyone else on that journey when you first started? So he was the first one you met on the app?
Yep.
And you were on Seniors Meet Seniors, right?
Right. Mhm.
So he was the first one you met on the app, and you didn't meet any other ones
Well,
you talked to?
I had talked to several, but nothing clicked.
Okay. So he was the first one that clicked with you, and then so how did you know they were the one?
Natural,
Natural.
natural um, attraction to each other. It wasn't planned. It wasn't
Contrived.
connived or
Y
anything. It was just kind of there.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. Um, what advice would you give someone to a woman in their 50s, 60s, or even s at your age, that's hesitant to date again?
Well, make sure you're confident in who you are before you try to portray yourself to someone else. Because a lot of us bury ourselves into the circumstances we are coming from.
Mhm,
So you
mhm.
kind of have to do some self analyzing and self um, digging to get to the core of who are you really,
Right, right.
and then pretty soon you're going to find this really neat person that you didn't know you were.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's very important.
yeah.
Um, you aimed for happiness, and I love how you aimed for happiness rather than a specific thing that you were looking for. You wanted to just be happy, and you just didn't wanna be lonely and bored anymore.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and having someone that could talk to you intellectually, uh, and not a person who is trying to be who they thought you wanted.
right, I think that's the difference between aiming for precision versus aiming for love, because precision, you're looking for a specific thing, and that isn't necessarily what's going to make you happy. You're looking for somebody that looks like a George Clooney. You're looking for somebody who has a specific attributes or something like that. Whereas if you aim for love, you aim for happiness, you aim for joy, I think you have a better chance of overall happiness than aiming for something specific, in maybe attributes. I think that's something that needs to be thought about. I think it's pretty inspiring to people out there that you can go after and find love after the age of 70, because there's a lot of people that at that age group, they are finding themselves single, whether it's through death of their spouse or from divorce, late life divorce, that gray divorce. um and because there's an awful lot of people who, you come from an era of you stick it out kind of thing. And, if you come from an era where you're supposed to kinda stick it out, once the kids are grown, once the kids are gone and all of this, and you're just stuck with each other and you realize you're absolutely miserable, there's a lot of people that have realized, "I don't have to stick it out anymore. I can venture out on my own." So, you having the courage to do those things is inspiring to other women out there that maybe haven't, done something like that themselves. Tell me a little bit about, um tell us a little backstory about when you were younger. Like, you talked a little bit about being a pilot, but also you were in aviation as a pilot, but you were also a model. And what was dating like in your 20s versus, if you can compare the 2, your 20s and 30s, maybe even to your 70s, c what what would you say you learned from your 20s and 30s to that you could even apply to your 70s?
Well, I think what I learned is to value myself and not try to be someone that somebody else wanted, to be true to your own identity and stay there and in a situation where you are uncomfortable, you need to get out. If you feel like somebody's pressuring you to do something you really don't want to do, don't do it. We so much program, especially as women, to appease and do whatever the man wants. Well, that's over, man.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say about that.
Did you find that that you had the ability to try again without fear?
I don't think it was fear. It was just the
Well, I mean that you didn't have the fear.
no, I wasn't afraid at all about um, a new. I treated it like a new experience. Try to go into something that I have not been in before, and you know, you jump in the deep part of the pool and find out what happens. And all of a sudden, there you have your shining knight, gleaming armor, sitting on this beautiful white horse. Never expected anything like that, but you can have this vision of what you would like to have out of life and go for it.
Yeah. Well, there is a time when people tend to think that they're too old and they're not going to be able to date um anymore. There it that chapter has passed and that they aren't um dateable anymore. What would you say to somebody who thinks that because they're that age they're not dateable anymore?
Well, I don't think I'm dateable because I don't know how to find someone my age. I don't know where to go.
Well, when you were 72 though, you didn't think you weren't dateable. So why would you put
There's a big difference between 72 and 83.
um true, but okay, so if you were going to give yourself advice, dig deep into that, and what advice would you give to yourself if you were giving advice?
Try to stay in the lane that you're in. Don't try to be somebody you're not because eventually it'll fail. And that's difficult because especially people pleasers want to be able to be like the person that they're interested in. I mean, to go online and now that you have the internet, you can find everything you want to know about any type of venue and bone up on it, whether you know it or not. And then you can pretend that's who you are. And you need to stop that. You have to be true to yourself.
I think that's a very good I think that's a very good tip is be authentic to yourself, be true to who you are because it's so easy to create something that you want somebody else to like, and whether or not they're going to like that person is a different story. Um, there is a lot of fakeness out there. So when you consider the amount of fakeness out there and people who do contrive, so let's talk about that aspect. People who contrive different things. What would you tell somebody who is thinking about dating and how maybe to catch or see the fakeness out there? How would you, if somebody were coming at you and giving you information to date you, what would you be looking for to determine whether or not they were um being honest or not?
Well, what I would do is I would find out information about what they're saying, who they are. and just ask them some very open questions and see how they answer it. Because if they're truly into that, they know the answers. If they don't, they'll come up with some mumbo jumbo that really doesn't make any sense. You know that he's lying. You have to protect yourself from predators.
Right, right. You have to think about that from the aspect of there are people out there that are willing and and have the know-how and ability to prey on seniors. And they might even portray themselves as being somebody who's younger or older than they are in order to try to convince somebody out of their money or to help them or give them something that they want. I think that's something to be very leery of and very cautious about when in this dating pool. I like the advice you gave earlier. Keep it within 50 miles of where you live, because then the excuses for that are very limited. Driving and maybe a doctor visit conflict. But other than that, I mean, I would say that if they had any other excuse for not coming or not being able to meet you, I would be very leery of that person very quickly versus somebody that's farther away. So keeping them closer to home makes that ability to make uh, bad excuses that wouldn't fly very far. I have this clip I'm going to show, and I am going to share it with you. I want you to, I don't know how much you can see it, but hopefully you can actually hear it. Hearing it is more important necessarily than seeing it. So I'm gonna let you see this part here. Hold on one second. And here we go. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Oh, hold on. I didn't turn on the volume. Let's start that over again.
Finding love after 60 is a topic for discussion that we have often in our 60 and Me community. A lot of women find themselves in different kinds of relationships as they get older, and they ask themselves, should I try to look for love again in my 60s? Now, this is a topic that has many different points of view and perspectives, but I want to go through with you what the women in our community said. We asked them this question and share with you their answers. It may give you some inspiration. So my name is Margaret Manning. I'm with 60 and Me, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your input. So let's have a conversation. Now, dating after 60 is not the most interesting thing to talk about. In fact, it's quite provocative in some ways. And I'm really sure that you're going to have, many of you are going to have opposing views to what I might be putting forward here, because it involves you making some changes to the way that you approach yourself and the world of men out there. Some women have had a lot of situations where they had been betrayed or hurt or worse, by men in their lives. They perhaps married quite young and didn't, have an understanding or, a clear view of what it was going to be like. And so they've been through some bumpy times. We've all loved and lost, and it's affected women in different ways. But when we asked our 60 and Me community, can we be loved again? Is finding love after 60 a possibility? The answer was all over the place, but very, very enlightening. And I want to share with you some of the comments that they made. The first thing is finding love after 60 starts with you. It starts with yourself, because without self-love, you have nothing to really, no confidence to move forward. You really don't think that you are worthy of love. And unless you think that you are worthy of love, then you won't, you won't find a way forward.
I think that's a good point to make there is it does start with you. You have to feel that you're lovable. And I think part of that comes from loving yourself. No matter what age you are, you need to love yourself in order to love someone else. I've heard that a million times before, and I think it's still a prominent, important factor that you do have to love yourself, and you have to feel that you are lovable as well. Um,
Oh,
well,
I feel like you really need to like yourself.
yeah, oh,
Do
right.
you like who you are?
Well, that's an important factor because, I mean, you think about it from your aspect of your kids when your kids are bad or your husband has pissed you off. Do you still love them? But you don't necessarily like them at that moment.
Right.
So you have to think about that with yourself. That's a really good point. Excuse me, you can love yourself, but do you like yourself? And therefore, if you relate that to you love yourself and you like yourself, then are you lovable and likable?
Right.
So I think that's a really good thing to think about because most people think about you have to love yourself and are you lovable, but you can love yourself and not be a very nice person.
Well, you like who you are.
Yeah.
So that means you put yourself forward uh, before everybody else.
Hmm.
And you don't want to get involved with someone like that because that's a controlling person.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be controlled. I want to be adored.
Exactly. Exactly. I like that. Let's continue.
You need to have a positive attitude. You need to have the glasses half full and look at the whole thing of the potential as being something that's possible, that there is possibility for love. And it may not be the same as you thought it might be 30, 40 years ago. And after, a couple of marriages perhaps and some challenging times, it may not even feel like it's worthwhile. But most of the women that responded to our survey said that they thought it was worthwhile for different reasons than you might expect. I wanted to just share one thing with you real quickly though, because we have a deck of cards called Aging Beautifully. You can see the cards in the box behind. And Aging Beautifully is a deck of 46 cards. And the reason I mention it in this context for this particular talk is there are 5 cards that talk about this issue of finding love after 60. And it's not, romantic, sexual love necessarily, although it could be. It's actually just the love. And the first one is, it's forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for things that might have gone wrong, things that you might have felt responsible for. The other is the one I just mentioned, which is learn to love yourself. And all these cards have a paragraph on the back that kind of helps you to just put this in a perspective, in a way to think about it. And of course, there's this one, which is never give up on love. And that's maybe hard for some people to accept. And maybe one that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, which I think is super important, and that is learn to trust again. This one is hard, especially if you've been hurt several times. Learn to trust again is important. And then there's one that I'm going to share with you in a minute that's like covers it all, and that will be the one that's at the end, because once we talk this through.
That is a very good point, is forgiving yourself and as well as learning to love again and trust again. All those things are very important. I think quite often we forget that we have things that we might need to forgive ourselves for, and we might need to forgive our past loves for. Someone who's hurt us, sometimes we have to forgive them as well so that we can move on. It doesn't mean that they are off the hook, but sometimes you have to take those steps so that you can move forward. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I am not a type of person that holds grudges. It is what it is at the particular time, and things happen at that time. You have to just let it roll over you and say, okay, that's it. I've done that and I shouldn't have, but I did. And that's the way it is.
Right, right. Sometimes it is just what it was. And sometimes you will not ever have the closure you might have wanted. So you have to put that in perspective and just move forward and move on, and pull your big girl pants up and move forward and find the joy where the joy was and find the strength to move forward and find the ability to forgive yourself for whatever part you may have played in it. Because still do believe there's two people takes to tango, but even though the other person may have been the caveat to the pain that they caused or the heartache that they caused, you were still a part of the play. So you have to at some point forgive yourself for whatever part you did play in that, and in order to allow yourself to move forward. And when it comes to dating, we tend to forget that there are other parts that were in play at that time. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with what you might have done. Um, and there's no reason to even focus or think about blame or doing the blame game or any of the other things. Life is just what life is. And sometimes you have good things happen and sometimes you have bad things that happen. And finding a way to move past all the past to be in the present. And I think that's a big part of it is we still have to be in the present. So, I think there are some key factors here that you have to think about dating at these ages. At 50, I think this applies to all these ages, but keep them in mind. At 50s, be clear about what you want, and you there are apps out there like Bumble, there's um, uh, Match.com. There's quite a few other ones, or meet people through hobbies. I think we need to get back to meeting in public places and meeting people in real person versus apps, because it is very easy to be fake on an app than it is to be in person. In your 60s, prioritize companionship over pressure to marry and try local apps if apps aren't your thing. Um, and again, I think we should, as a community, as people, I think it is more important for us to start getting back to the basics and getting back to the way we used to date and meeting people in real places. That's my opinion anyway. I think there's just a lot of fakeness online, and I think you can cut through the bullshit a little bit better if you're not using quite as much of the online stuff, because it is possible. 70s and 80s, and you spoke on this, focus on shared experiences. Join clubs, ask friends for intros, and don't shy away from intimacy. 70% of seniors are in relationships and are active. Safety, ask about their STDs, their STI stories. Use protection still. Just because you're a senior and you maybe can't get pregnant, you also don't want to end up with an STD. STD rates are up among over 65s, the highest they have ever been in history. So I think that's something to think about. Our time dating tips for seniors. That's a blog post from Our Time Dating Guide 2025. You can Google it on Google, and it's a very interesting little thing. I didn't have time to share that. I had that one booted up here to share, but I didn't have time for that. So, dating after 50. It's about aiming for what your lights you up, basically. What intrigues you? At any age, what's your dating story? Drop it in the comments. Send your Dear Margaret questions to Dear Marge, DearMarg, at gurltauX.com, GURLTAUX. And of course, we will have more information. Our time is up, but tomorrow we'll be back with more Life After 50. Just stay bold, stay empowered, and go after what you want. And it's okay to not want to use apps, and it's okay to use them. Either way, whatever is your thing, you go ahead and go for it. Remember, we're doing a series on Life After 50, how to thrive, not just survive. following our retirement episode from last week, and we're going to lead into some health, purpose, and money topics later in the week.
And if anybody out there is 75 plus, say hello.
Yeah, drop a line. Well, I really appreciate you sharing a little bit with us and being on the show. And what would be the last thing you would say to give somebody advice on dating after their 70s?
Be authentic.
Very, very good. I think that is a great way to end the show. Remember to be authentic with yourself. And that is what we are here at Gurl TauX. We're always authentic. We keep it real. We keep it honest. And sometimes we get into the nitty gritty of it, but sometimes we also just share what we know and what we have experienced. So it doesn't mean that we know all and we are all or be all. Yeah, we are. But it's Gurl TauX. We're going to talk about it, and we want you to talk with us. So please join our tribe. Follow, like, and subscribe to our channel at gurltaux.com. We really appreciate you all being here, and thank you so much, and have a great night. Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you for watching Gurl TauX live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't
I can't hear you. I have our mics off.
send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.